For those of you who don't know me yet, my name is Casey. Online, I am consciousnessexploration.com, and together, collectively as a group, we are the Galactic Travel Channel. Galactic space is not an easy space to open to. So the experience of galactic space opened to me quite early, and my response to it was a fear-based response. But fear and weakness is not something easy for me to accept. And so I learned a little trick. I learned a little trick when I was in there in the fields. And that was to, rather than run away from what I was fearing, do just the reverse fear. So if there was somebody right in front of me that I was afraid of, if an ET being was presented and I was experiencing fear, I would literally run right at it. Okay, and these other fields and these other spaces, you run right through what you're seeing. And you end up in a new field, but a new field that has to do with what it is you've run into. And so this took me into many experiences in galactic space, in non-local bodies, on non-local worlds, on-board craft, and experiences on the table, physical exams, things like this. So I've had to work myself through quite a lot in regard to galactic space. Connecting with galactic consciousness has its rewards. I not only find myself in lessons, in study programs being taught, I also find myself having my innate talents and gifts activated. And one of the activations of one of the gifts I came here with involve my consciousness, which is a crystalline consciousness. I'm still learning this, but it showed me my connection with the crystals, and specifically a certain talent I have for connecting my consciousness with the consciousness of crystals, specifically for the purpose of communications. And so using a crystal as we might use a cell phone, for instance, as a comms device, as a communication device. And now I speak to myself through time through the use of a crystal. I can Okay, Isa is the main crystal I'm working with for the crystal contacts, the crystal transmissions, as I will often call them. Isa is a citrine quartz crystal. She's in a teardrop shape. Quartz crystal is six-sided. If I turn her upside down here, you can maybe see the six sides. So on the bottom, and of course, six sides along her faces. Okay, she works really great with me. You can see she's just smaller than my hand. She's very easy for me to maneuver in my hand when I'm doing the captures, and she's just like glue. She just fits in there like a glove. Okay, so for me, this size and this style and this shape of crystal works really well for this work. So when someone is calling me through this crystal, I can feel it. I will start to have the idea to pick up the crystal, that I need to start picking up the crystal, that I need to start working with the crystal. It'll just keep pushing itself more and more forward. And this is a very large part of my process. And once I do pick up the crystal, the first part of my process is to connect with Isa, to connect with the crystal itself. This is going to take me into a deep alpha, and as I begin working with the crystal, it's going to take me into the theta waves. And being able to function in the theta waves is not something that's easy. They, as you may know if you go out of body yourself, are very intoxicating, and they will pull you in. And if you are able to go out of body and enjoy going out of body like myself, it's really challenging to resist the lure to shift wholly in there and away from here. So breathing patterns work. A lot of things, you may need to employ some things to keep you focused in the reality and on what you're attempting to do here, which is bring through a wave from another point in time to your wave here in this point in time through the mean of the crystal. Fascinating process, hard to wrap your mind around. I know that this is actually taking place, but let me say this. If you can do it with this, you can do it with this. It's no more mind-blowing, really. I mean, this is just nuts and bolts. If there's anything that's mind-blowing, it's this. Really sort of less mind-blowing that something as intelligent as the crystal itself is able to be used solely as the mean of communication. Okay, so I'm going to hear the call. I'm going to connect with the crystal. I'm going to connect with myself. Okay, I'm going to become an energetic frequency match to the caller. In this process, my brainwave patterns are going to shift. So I'm consciously moving through this process. The process really is a process of consciously shifting my brainwave patterns to be a match again to the caller. And then I am going to sit myself down where I want to do the work. I'm going to sit myself sideways to my light source. I prefer to use the sun. So I want the light source to come in on me sideways. So each of the brain waves and the frequencies within each of the major brain waves, beta wave, alpha wave, theta wave, delta wave, gamma wave, etc., has its own visual and visible spectrum. Okay, so when we're in the beta brainwave, we're principally seeing our 3D physical reality and only our Earth-like 3D physical reality, not 3D physical reality anywhere else. So it's a lockdown sort of wave, which isolates you in a particular point of focus so that you can have a particular experience. And other elements of what exists right here while you're right here in this wave doesn't get through to you. Okay, and so when we shift into the alpha wave, this is a whole nother frequency pattern, a whole nother frequency wave. And there's data, there's information in this wave that isn't in the beta wave. And so you can see that as you shift your brainwave patterns into these other waves, this additional information is going to come through. And as it comes through to you, it can be focused through the crystal and captured with the camera for others to see. But it first requires you seeing it. Okay, and what's really happening is you're transferring the contents of what's in your own awareness, what's in your own visual field through the crystal and onto the camera. Okay, and so that's the connection. Now, there's a lot more to this. I could probably do a video a couple hours long if we wanted to just focus on that alone. A lot's coming in, but right now, let me just say this. Each frequency pattern, each frequency wave has its own set of information. Okay, that information again can be transferred from your consciousness through the mean of the crystal into your frames, into your captures, into what you get on the camera. This is just a fun fact. The frames are designed to help you shift. And so for those of you who are wanting to go out of body, wanting to shift your brainwave patterns, your brainwave cycles, your waves into other worlds, the frames that I'm putting through to you can be very helpful with this. They are the visual equivalent of their audio counterparts, isochronic tones, binaural beats, this type of idea. It's not just the being who's presenting in the frame. It is the frequency wave of that being. It is the frequency waves that I am housing, emitting as I am getting the capture. And so all of those frequency waves are in there. Where these beings are is in there. Okay? And so by taking your gaze into the frames, softening your gaze, just letting your gaze drift and float. Okay? Looking for those patterns that tell you that something's there, letting that capture your attention, expanding that attention out, focusing it in more closely. All of these things will create that alteration in your own structure and assist you to shift. do it. The process of opening a window, I will mention right here now, is a process of triangulation. So if I'm wanting to go out beyond the body of this crystal itself, I am going to pick a point, and it's going to be a triangulated point. This face, and this face meet right here at this point. And I'm going to take the camera, or just my gaze, if I'm doing it just for myself, right into the point in this crystal. And windows are going to start to open. Fascinating, because I can actually see the windows open, and you can see the light change as you go in. And you may, a part of this process is also being able to visually recognize patterns as something. When you're tuning a dial on a radio, you have to get just the right space to get the frequency to come in. And this takes great skill when you're talking about receiving messages from a long, long ways away. And you also have to be able to audibly recognize sounds and frequencies, and especially those that are different than normal, something that mean something. And the same could be said when I'm going visually into Isa, into the crystals. And when you are going visually into the crystals, you need to be able to recognize patterns as something and then focus your attention into them. Focusing your attention in, going in until you get there, is something that takes time and patience. Let me go into this a little bit further and mention that there are 3 types of captures specifically that I have identified as being somewhat distinct from one another. And the capture could be one or another of these, or a combination of some or all of them. But the first one is the triangulation process of opening a window in the crystal, which we've already gone into, to go out beyond the body of the crystal itself. The next way transmissions come through is through the rays of the sun, through the light rays, carrier waves. The light waves, the sunbeams, are carrier waves, and they can carry information, carry data that can be processed through the crystal and, sent to me, processed through the crystal, and received here on my end. Fascinating, right? So that's a second way. And those 2 ways are definitely transmissions. However, there's an elemental component also. And I can go into this crystal, into the crystal itself, into the body of this crystal, into the information it physically holds, that's inside there physically right now. And that's going to be going into the elemental realm. Okay, and the elemental realm, I can read this rock. There is a story in this stone, and I can capture those as well. Now that's going to be the elemental realm, the elemental kingdom in here, cooperating with me to tell these stories so that I can read them to you. And so in a sense, in that way, they could be said to be transmissions too, because they're transmissions from the elemental realm. But in a lesser sense, also, it's the story of this stone and the information it holds. The last way I will just mention is many of these beings I actually meet. I am, and I meet in this form, I meet those forms in out-of-body experience. So this is also another mean for me to be aware that they are transmissions, as well as the fact that I'm not just a visual channel, I'm a vocal channel as well. So I'm very inwardly connected, and I am communicating with these beings from the withinness of my being. The process and the work that we're doing with the crystal is so that we can take what is an invisible experience within myself and visibly show you. People in physical space often want something, some physical proof, some physical mean to understand what it is you're saying, and this is just something that we're doing to help that along. How I arrived at the work. I arrived at the work in my 44th year, after 44 years of spiritual disciplines. In my 44th year, in the summer of 2009, this is when I had my conscious awakening, when I was activated to awaken and underwent a top-down Kundalini awakening type process. Forms of light began coming in. I could see portals and all kinds of things that I won't go into. I often got stopped on a dime in 360 vision where I would be taken very fast around the planet. A bunch of things like this during the day. At night, the K energies would come. It was very painful for quite some time. While things were being cleared, and through this process again was shown the out-of-body states and additional states of consciousness, as I call them, and taken into additional consciousness space, out into galactic space, into the galactic reality. And I had so much fun with this. I did hit a point where I could vacate, and I decided it would be more fun to come back and share this with everyone. I saw a lot of possibility in this, and that's what I'm doing. I'm entering that possibility for a great many more of us and extending my own possibility. There's much more I can do in this work. It can pattern out to be a great deal more than what it is now. Some of you have heard me mention this before. Let's see if I can state this cohesively. I am a visual channel. I can bring through the visual component. I'm a vocal channel as well, but I'm having a challenging time with that to the extent that I want to bring it to, let's say. But with the visual component, not always will we necessarily require the crystal to show you the contacts that are occurring currently on the planet, mine and others. I receive information that I am a type of being who can shift in my own molecular makeup and visually bring through my own physicality, the forms of others who would like to come through to speak to consensus. And so if that seems out there to you, it seems out there to me also, and as such, so much fun. Somehow it's always been easier for me to focus myself into things that are more challenging than things that are more simple, things that have never been done rather than things that have already been done. I'm not sure why. I do tend to be a bit of a push things to the absolute limit type of person, and I'm sure this is a part of my being that just requires some expression and has the potentiality, great potentiality to hear in this life.